All right, it's Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Patrick Reusse joins me as usual on Mondays. We got a whole list of stuff to get to, Patrick. We'll get to your Twins. You ranked every Twins season. I don't know where the inspiration for that came from, but that was fun. I want to get a few expanded thoughts on that. We both watched some baseball playoffs over the weekend. We watched the Minnesota Loons, the United FC, make it into the playoffs after it was just a collapse down the stretch, but they beat Vancouver Sunday, so they are in. Interesting Gopher hockey series over the weekend as well. Got Wolves and Wild starting up soon. Wild starts Thursday, their season, and Wolves are like a little over a week away. But Patrick, we almost always this time of year start with the Vikings, and for good reason. It was a weird game on Sunday because they looked like, they get up 21-3. They score in their first three possessions. They're just these long, methodical drives. They're choking the time of possession away from the Bears. The Bears don't have anything going. Looks like it's going to be the kind of laugher everybody wanted, and then it just wasn't. Another one they had to kind of rescue in the fourth quarter. Style points don't matter in the NFL. They're 4-1 now, but I think they might have liked to finish that one a little bit differently than the way they did.
Well, didn't I see the first half was 307 yards to 85 or something? I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah. Time of possession was like 23-7 too.
Yeah, him that touched that 4-play 90-yard drive right at the end of the half, which was kind of like last year when they gave up all the points at the end of the half. But how they ended up making that an adventure, I have no idea. I saw this stat from Seifert. I'm sure everybody else had it too, but he threw 41 passes, and none of them were deemed to be in close cover, in a tight window. None of them out of 41. In other words, nobody was within a yard of a receiver,
right,
ever for the Bears. So, he completed his first 17, right, or 16 in a row, and
first 17, yes, broke Tommy Kramer's record.
So they win, and I generally like to put out that this is going to be a bad loss, but I never did that yesterday because I never thought the Bears were going to beat them. Once they got the ball, I said they're going to go down and do something here to take the lead against the Bears, and then of course Cameron Dantzler made one of the craziest plays we've ever seen. He just ran up, took the ball away from the guy who was cutting down the field. That was one of our old buddies that some of our Viking fans were upset that he got cut, right?
Yeah, Smith Marset
or whatever it is, and he'd had a couple of screw ups yesterday, but they win. They're 4-1, and now they get to go to play in Miami, and the NFL won't let Miami use any of its quarterbacks.
No,
because Tua's still in concussion protocol apparently, or he's got a bad hip too. But Teddy passes concussion protocol, but they still won't let him play because some guy detected that when he got up, he stumbled briefly. So now with the new protocols they have, if the guy in the tent, if the guy back in the back, who's the neutral observer that they have, detects any kind of ataxia. Did you see this? Because it goes back to the fingers, right? Was it Teddy that had the fingers that looked strange a week earlier or something?
I don't remember that. I just
who had the but
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember who it was, but was it? I don't know who it was. Was it Tua a couple of weeks ago, or who was it?
No, Tua was different.
Okay,
but last week it was anyway. They got the new protocols, and there's a target on the Dolphins' back because they brought Tua in 3 weeks ago and they didn't think they could have. So they can't use their quarterbacks. They got some guy who was, I think, undrafted.
I think he was a 7th rounder. Yeah,
that was a 7th rounder playing, and Vikings go down there next week. They're probably better than Miami anyway. But if Miami doesn't let if the NFL doesn't let either the quarterbacks play, our boys are 5-1. That one's because early in the year Miami looked pretty good when Tua was playing, and now they're they're on the bad side with the NFL. So that looks like the Vikings might get another break, but they're going to the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. They're 4-1. They got the Lions left. They got the Bears left. They're going to win 10. Because everything's broken their way. They haven't had a bad break when in those final minutes when games are being decided. Good things have happened to them. They got a couple of cheap penalty calls last week in New Orleans in London that won that game for them. And now, like yesterday, they're playing the Bears, and Cousins has like a quarter and a half when he doesn't look real good, and then all of a sudden he leads them down the field. And when he starts rambling for 12 yards or 15 or whatever it was for a first down, the other team's in trouble. So yeah, they're 4-1. That's, I guess, the bottom line. And the games are all exciting in one way or another.
They're close. Yeah. Exactly.
They're close. Yeah. I know. It's the NFL. We've talked about this every week now. Is you just have endless games like this that are undecided in the last 2 minutes, and that was another one of them. And they're 4-1 in those games. They beat Green Bay, and there was no doubt about it. But the others, they all could have lost, but they won.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
And by the way, it looks like our Lions have decided that all that feisty effort that they've been giving for Dan Campbell, they've hit the wall.
Yes.
They got shut out yesterday by New England, right?
Yes, New England.
Shut them out. So they packed it in strict Lion style, once again, probably heading for a 2-14 record. And so, yeah, it's looking great. And then Green Bay, before the Vikings ever take the field, Green Bay kicks away a 10-point lead and gets shut out by the Giants in the second half in London. So Green Bay's not good. They're just fair, and the other two teams in the division stink. And you're pretty good, and you're figuring out a way to win. So there's not really much to complain about.
When do they start crowing about the culture that this is?
Probably today.
That it's the culture that's winning them the close games. I think the players have been asked about it and said it a little bit, but when do the real authors of the culture start to, are they still kind of toeing the water? Cause this could, you can lose close games as easily as you win them. Or is this the point where you say, these are the moments where the culture kicks in, and that's why we're winning these games?
That's probably out there right now. It's just not maybe in the outlets that I'm reading, but or listening to. But I'm sure that that's they're going to be taking a bow for it for sure. That's I had a little fun on Twitter late last night. Finally, we got a team that knows how to win around here, and stuff like that. But that's I'm certain going to be part of it, and it depends. I don't think do the local newspapers have any real butt kissers when it comes to the Vikings? I'm not sure we do.
Yeah.
But there's certainly enough of it out of there in the blogosphere and everything else. So yeah, we'll be reading that. And, once you really start patting yourself on the back in that league, and you still aren't very good defensively, that's a license to go and get beat by somebody you don't expect to lose to. But
right, exactly.
It's a goofy league right now. As Sid used to always say, it's crazy league, but it's a crazy league because I think the officials are a bigger part of the game now than they've ever been.
Oh, yes.
We have another one of those calls, and for no reason, and the Falcons kind of cost
the rough
them
and the passer call.
Rough on the passer was ridiculous, and I just saw an explanation that it was unnecessary, that he tackled him. It was unnecessary. That they took him to the ground like they took him. So I think the whole quarterback paranoia is probably gaining more momentum than ever because of what happened to Miami, right? So
yeah,
if you take down a quarterback, there was one in the London game when Cousins got taken down hard. People were wondering, well, no, what game was that? The quarterback was trying to escape, and somebody grabbed him. They almost had to throw him to the ground
sure.
to get him down to the ground. But everybody's saying, "Oh, there's the penalty. Why not a penalty flag?" Well, God, you got to be able to tackle a guy.
Right. These guys aren't just going down. If they're not going down willingly, if they're not like,
no, you got it. Yeah, I mean, if you get them wrapped up and they're still fighting and struggling and halfway out of your grasp, what's your option? But yeah, the NFL drives me nuts with the impact of refereeing. I watch the Vikings games, but it's amazing to me how little I'm watching of it because the refereeing drives me nuts.
Well, and the games right now are not very good. I talked about this a lot on Friday's show because that Thursday game was unwatchable. The Colts and
Russ Wilson.
The Colts, yeah, something's wrong with Russ. He's going to get like a cortisone shot or something, I think. So
right.
You knew the injury speculation, you knew the injury stuff would leak as soon as he had so many bad games in a row. But
yeah, they have to tell you that he wasn't healthy because they gave him $200 million, so they got to be a little nervous,
right? If you're not watching the team you have a vested interest in, it is harder these days to watch it because it's just not. The product just isn't very good right now. In a lot of cases, it's close. It's always close, but it's not always that compelling right now because the skill is not really winning the day right now. But you know what? You're right. Vikings are 4-1. Well, there's one undefeated team still, right? The Eagles still are undefeated.
Still undefeated, yeah.
There's probably only a handful of teams.
Can't be that many with 4, right?
No, I mean the Giants got to 4 with their win.
They're terrible.
Yeah, I mean they're not that good. I don't know what's wrong with Green Bay. I think.
No. I don't know if Rodgers. Well, they're not. They don't have any receivers, and they're not. The offensive line's not great, and the defense is probably a little bit overrated because they they let some people go. I was saying going in, plus I think Rodgers is like he's back for the money. I keep saying that. I think it's not as. I mean, he has the ball in his hands late in the game again yesterday and didn't win the game for him.
No, so. Looked like he said something to, I don't know if it was LaFleur or somebody coming off the field, but he did not look happy with the final sequence. I mean, both those 3rd and 4th down passes got batted down. Maybe he didn't love his options, but he has a good deal of pout in him when things don't go his way. The body language on him has never been good when things are bad. So that'll be interesting too.
It's worse right now though, too, because
it is.
He was mad because they didn't go to London earlier. I mean, I don't know if he's mad, but he was joking about it anyway. I think he's been a better quote right now than he's ever been in his life though, because he'll say anything. He doesn't care. He's
mad.
He's eating that peyote from Peru or something. Made him completely crazy. Which is weird. So I wonder, you think the Russ Wilson disaster is going to the Nathaniel Hackett disaster too? That guy might be the first coach to get fired in his first month. But do you think that's going to make teams more reluctant to trade for these ungodly expensive veteran quarterbacks? I mean, Matt Ryan's doing nothing with the Colts, and you're bringing in on Carson Wentz. He stinks. He lost it again yesterday. Interception on the 1-yard line. I mean, is it going to make these teams more reluctant to get a veteran quarterback who's making hundreds of millions of dollars? I would think it might.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you would have thought before the year started that Russ was in a different category than those guys, right? That he's
yes.
But and you go back the last 2 years, Brady and then Stafford, they both won Super Bowl with with their new teams. But so I think that has some carryover effect. Everyone's like, well, that some of these teams won the Super Bowl with by pushing the chips all in. But yeah, I think the kind of quarterback you just mentioned, the second kind of pass, the Matt Ryan, the Carson Wentz, those guys are going to be. That's the kind of quarterback that's going to get that's going to go by the wayside in future years, I would think.
Yeah, no, why spend that much money? The only way you can build a good team is to have a quarterback. I mean, somehow Kansas City's doing it with Mahomes, but when you start paying those quarterbacks $45 million a year, that's when your team kind of goes to hell. So because you can't keep the players. Well, the salary, because the players, the quarterback salaries, if the cap goes up, the quarterback salaries go up. They're the first thing to go up, which is the linemen and those guys who you really need to win don't benefit from it as much as the quarterbacks do.
Well, that's been a big problem with the Kirk Cousins era, but he is the 4-1 Kirk Cousins right now. Hey, Patrick, I want to shift gears a little bit. I don't know what prompted this, but you decided you needed to rank all 62 Twins seasons to date. Some obvious ones graded as an A, the World Series team, some of the other teams in there that made the postseason, even some that didn't. But maybe we'll start with your ranking of this year's teams. I thought it was pretty accurate, but did people find your grading harsh in any ways, Patrick?
Some of them, from what I looked at, some of the comments are mad that they got a few of them. I mean, everybody hates this team, at least in Star Tribune comments. They do, right? As you've learned. So they should have gotten an F this year. I got more of that. Actually, what the source of this was, I had two ideas going, and one was this one. And because how many more opportunities am I going to get to use my 60-some year knowledge of the Twins? So right. I decided to do it this way, and I had some discussions with our boss, Chris Carr. And obviously, on the D's and the F's, I had to tighten it up a little bit. It would have been great to do it and have a quip on each of the years, but that was not feasible lengthwise. So, but yeah, it was just something to have fun with. And I think they, didn't mind having a Twins column to wrap up things at the end of the year. So that's how it came about. And yeah, it was fun, but it took me 7 hours. I got up at 6 a.m. on Friday to write it, but at least an hour of that was making sure I had every team. When you're doing, I went in there and crossed them over, and then when I got all done, I was missing 2 years, and I couldn't figure out what years they were, because there was. So finally, I found out it was. And then I had a panic yesterday morning because I couldn't find 2008, but there it was, stuck there somewhere. So anyway, I don't know, it was just fun, I guess. It was, and kind of hopeful to get some people, maybe discussing it, fired up about it, telling me how I was wrong, right, or whatever. So yeah, it was fun. But
you gave this year's team a D, and most of that work done certainly in the last month of the season before they finished 78 and 84. I mean, but really, you go back to late May when they were 27 and 16, and from that point forward, they went 51 and 68. I think 51 and 68 from that point in the season.
Yeah, they were not good for months, and then they were, they'd pop up and win 5 in a week and be back in first place. I mean, they were in first place the whole time. It looked like they were, but they could have stepped on the pedal and got away from everybody. But I mean, in August, what was the record after Buxton left them again forever?
It was terrible.
That guy's. The thing about Buxton is you got to not only look at when he stopped playing at all, but when he stopped playing center field.
Right.
Because that's when he gives them an advantage. He doesn't give them advantage as a DH. He gives them an advantage as a center fielder. Everybody's saying the injuries are an excuse. Well, certainly they are. But Jake Cave, I mean, Phil Miller did a great wrap up. If you get the paper on all 53 guys that basically you could say were either on the disabled list or on the 40 man at the end of the year. And there was no plan. There was nobody, eating enough of hallucinogenic mushrooms to ever think that Jake Cave was going to be an Iron Man for the last 2 months. I mean, it was a disaster in the outfield. And what's amazing about it is when the year started, you were saying, what are they going to do with all these outfielders?
Right.
Larnick, Kirilloff, Kepler,
Buxton.
But then again, you want to, nobody makes more fun of culture than me. But you look at the Vikings, Vikings, okay, they're figuring out a way to win these games. They really haven't had it, everybody's playing pretty much. They haven't had very few injuries. And these guys, the culture became don't play.
Right.
The culture became, I'm not 100. I don't know if I don't blame Rocco. I don't blame anybody. But everybody is, well, how did your culture become? This hurts. That hurts. Everything else hurts.
Right.
And they didn't play. The players didn't play, and that should be a bad reflection on them. It's not a reflection of bad luck. It's a reflection of a bad approach that, you don't have to play if you're not feeling 100%, and it's or 80 or 90%. I mean, Louis Rise, basically, we shamed him into playing some the last 2 games, and he was good enough to play. He was limping. Okay, guys, go through an entire pennant race run to the finish for the whole entire history of baseball. A guy limping on a leg that's not 100% doesn't make you some kind of a warrior in baseball.
Right.
In baseball, you're supposed to play if you can play, and he proved he could play. And I'm glad he won the batting title. He seems like a nice guy, and he loves to play. But he probably, I get the impression that he was taking enough heat, and he seems to me like a guy who's pays attention to that stuff. And he probably told Rocco, play me. I want to win it on the field. So,
right.
And the judge conceded it the last day. But
right. You wouldn't have gotten it anyway. But yeah.
They have driven. It's amazing. Now, I don't even know what audience we're hearing from here. But they are getting bashed. They're getting bashed worse at the end of this year than in many years that were worse, right?
Well, yes, and it's the same. It's the same thing, because I talked to a lot of people about this team, and everybody kind of has the same notion about them, is that they just at no point was this year a whole lot of fun. They just didn't feel like didn't feel a real connection or identity or anything like that with this team. And I think that goes a long way with fans. They feel it. They're at the games, and even when they're winning, they're like, yeah, okay. And I don't think they ever really connected with this team. And I think that's a failure of something that's hard to put your finger on, but it's a failure.
Yeah. And it's not great to have fans go to the ballpark and say, who's going to play tonight? Who might play tonight? Who's right. Agreed to play tonight? And if my starting pitcher cruises through 5 innings, are they still going to have somebody warming up? And it's, this is not old time. Tampa Bay makes this work, although they didn't make it work the last 6 weeks of the season.
No,
but
or the last
Tampa
15
Bay
innings.
But it's not, your old-fashioned baseball fans. That's crap. You go to a game, and if people are performing well, you expect to continue to watch them perform well. You cannot understand why they are doing this idiotic stuff. And analytics, everybody says analytics. I don't think it's analytics. It's some analytic base, but it's a whole theory of playing the game that's gotten away from them. And, they gotta, I don't know what they can do, but they're in trouble. And Dave St. Peter's getting a lot of heat for saying he was disappointed in attendance. Well, he's got a right to be disappointed in attendance, doesn't he? He can say that, can't he?
Sure.
Doesn't say, I think our fans are a bunch of clowns or
no
anything.
He's just saying I thought we would do better. He's not saying you should have come.
No, and he's this is their worst attendance since 2000 or 2001, and then they actually padded it like hell the last homestand to make it not the worst since 2000, because they were announced in 24 when there were 12 there a couple of times the last week. So that doesn't make them bad guys that he's disappointed. I mean, to blame him or ownership is stupid. That's got nothing to do with it. It's how they put their on-field product on the field this year and what they did with them and all the injuries they had. And, Buxton lying to us about Buxton in the middle of, that's the other thing is you really, unless you're listening to unless you believe what BSN is telling you, they lie routinely. It's too easy for them to lie.
Right.
We haven't had
might be back in a few days, day to day.
Yeah, we haven't had a good liar since Andy McPhail, because he didn't lie. Andy said, I can't help you with that. That's what he used. I can't help you with that. And then I was okay. That means, in other words, I got two choices: lie to you or say I can't help you with that.
Right.
I'd much prefer I can't help you with that.
Yep.
And these guys, Rocco, I was there, Billy Hamilton. Why'd you sign him? You had to sign him because you don't think Buxton's coming back. It's got nothing to do with Buxton. Well, the hell it didn't. I mean, explain that to me.
Right.
Explain signing Billy Hamilton for a team that never steals a base. What in God's name was that about? And whoever recommended Billy Hamilton being signed should be fired. Whoever it was. The guy could not play for the best 15-year-old team in the Twin Cities. He couldn't hit a home run there, and he's getting signed. It's just the amount of stupid things that they do that are unexplainable just has driven people crazy. And then, I mean, let's face it, there's the percentage of hardcore baseball fans compared to what it was even 10 years ago is
dwindling.
Half.
Dwindling.
Dwindling. But even, what you had left of your audience who has an appreciation for how baseball has been played have decided that you're idiots, and Rocco gets bashed and everybody else gets bashed. And it's for a team that was tied for first place on September 4th, they're about the most unloved. I think they're probably the most unloved team we've ever had that wasn't a complete failure, So
that's a good way to put it. And I was going to ask you too, if I want to talk soccer and hockey here for a minute quick, but when you were putting together your list of 62, did you think in your head, this was my favorite team, this was my least favorite team? Do you have
that was the whole thing? It wasn't who was the best, it was who gave you the most joy at the end of the year. Who did you feel the best about? Like I think I gave a C to the 1982 team that went 16-54 to open the season and didn't win a game for 2 months, but they ended up 44-48, and you had all the young guys, and you kind of said,
right.
We thought they were going to. We had in the St. Paul paper, we were running the Metz-o-meter starting in the middle of May,
right,
comparing them to the 62 Mets,
right.
And they, and they had all these young guys, and they had guys like Gaetti that gave great quotes and stuff like that were funnier than hell, and they could laugh at their ineptitude, and you saw some hope coming eventually. Gaetti had the great quote about he's sitting reading the paper in Chicago one day, and he says, we should change our name to the Hapless Twins. He says the first paragraph of every story I ever read says against the Hapless Twins. I mean, it was an attitude that it was certainly not beloved by the fans because they drew 915,000 the first year in the
geez.
dome. In the dome, the first
Yeah.
year in a new stadium. So, I mean, yeah, it was more, I was trying to rate it about how we felt about him. And I might have actually putting the this year's Twins team at 37 might have been higher than they should have been, as far as that was your judgment, because the PR value of this season was nil.
And so I think you had the two World Series teams at the top, obviously, and I think you had the 2011 team was 62, right? The team that went 63 and 99 that kind of started this whole nightmare.
When you look at what they went into Target Field, and they had just had this good decade, they felt that this was going to be a honeymoon that lasted for 7-8 years, and they sold 20-some thousand season tickets, and they thought they would sell 20,000 season tickets for most of a decade,
right?
And go out and finish 19-50,
right?
and you're terrible. You're pitching Pedro Hernandez and guys like that, and giving them starts. And I think they were chosen to be the worst because of the impact they had, the long-term impact they had on the franchise. And it was devastating.
Yeah, it was.
So, Mike, I've always said that, when I was walking around spring training down there, and I was down there at least a couple of weeks, and everyone that I ran into that recognized my rather dramatic frame would say, "Ricey, we're going to beat the Yankees this year." And I'd say, "I think you should worry about other things first." But, to have that team celebrating on the field on the last day of the season because they didn't lose 100 is probably, to me, that's the number one disaster in franchise history. So,
I think you're probably right. Speaking of disasters, at least one averted. Minnesota United had been outscored 14-2 over 6 matches, had gone 0-5-1 in that span. It took a team that looked like it was a virtual lock to make the playoffs and probably even get a top 4 seed and get a home playoff game, put them into the brink of missing it altogether. They had to win or tie on Sunday at home against Vancouver. Now they did get that done. They win 2-0. Sounds like they played, from what I saw, it looked like they played a little bit more like they have, when they were going a little bit better. They got Robin Ludd back. They got some of those guys that they, that maybe are kind of the drivers of that team. But it feels like more like a crisis averted than a celebration at this point for those lads.
Yeah, it was a crisis averted, but it's they're the only one of only 2 teams in the West that's gone to the playoffs 4 years in a row or something. It's weird. Isn't Austin like a new franchise? Aren't they new?
Yeah, they're pretty new.
Texas, 1 or 2 years, they're finishing second, and it doesn't seem like there's any history in that league anymore. That you just don't know that it pops up. But the thing about it is, there is no sport where you can say we made the playoffs, now anything can happen. The MLS soccer is at a level of competition compared to international, like the Premier League or something.
Right.
I mean, the Premier League, the best team is generally going to go out and get 3 goals and beat you if you're a mediocre one, right? I mean, they don't. Yeah. Their upsets are much rarer than they are. But in the MLS, if you make the playoffs, yes, anything can happen because it's soccer, and you're, as I always say in hockey, in the playoffs, you're playing to 3. So that's anything can happen because you're playing to 3. In soccer, you're playing to 2, right? You're playing to 2. So if you get to 2 before Dallas gets to 2,
right,
you can win that game. And I mean, Dallas, last time they were down there, they got beat 3-0. I saw, but that doesn't mean anything. You get the first goal and hang on, and then they have to get a little more aggressive, and you go down and get another goal. You can win the cup now, even no matter how you limped in. That's my opinion. Soccer, it is a tremendous coin flip. Now, it isn't as bad as international soccer because you're less likely to get the winning goal by somebody flopping in the penalty area.
Right.
And because I think the international, like the World Cup, the floppers are at a higher level than they are in the MLS. A normal game, the flopping is much more exotic in the World Cup than it is in the regular season. But yeah, they made it, so now anything can happen. Of course, the weird thing is it's the middle of October and it's getting cold, and how they would have a very hard time ever playing another home game, right? Wouldn't it? It would require them playing the 7th. It would require the 7th place finishers to end up playing them, right? So that's
and the season started. Season's ending earlier than usual too this year because of the World Cup. But yeah, they play 8:30 a week from Monday, so about a week from now at Dallas. So I'm sure Dallas will be fine weather-wise, but yeah, it's an interesting start time too. But you're right, anything can happen in soccer, especially the soccer playoffs. And they went on that during the COVID year. They went on that run. I don't think that was not a great team by any means, but they almost made it to the Cup Finals if they hadn't.
Yeah, they got it in the semi. Didn't they blow a lead out in Seattle?
Yeah, they were up 2-0, and they kind of ran out of gas. 2-0 in like the 70th minute, and they gave up 3 in the last 20.
Now Seattle didn't make playoffs, right? For the first time in ever or something.
Yeah, there's a little reshuffling of the deck at the top of the table, as they say.
Yeah, that, top of the table. Yeah.
LA was awfully good, but yeah, it was kind of a weird year in MLS. And just the fact when you can go winless for 6 matches in a row down the stretch and then still find your way into the postseason.
2 goals in 6 games
and give up 14. I mean, that's something else.
Embarrassment. Yeah. But everybody was happy. They had a good crowd, big crowd. Everybody drank and they won. So, what the hey? Now you just sit around and wait. And boy, Adrian Heath needed this. He might have.
Yes.
This was college football. He would have been fired.
Yes.
Especially since he got his extension. Anybody in college football who gets an extension is subject to being fired at any moment. So
yes.
He would have been out. He would have been out the door. Plus, the soccer hard cards don't like him that well, right?
The Heath out hashtag on Twitter is a popular
one. What do they don't like about him? The way they play offense or defense?
I think they don't like his formations. They don't. I think I think it's a perception too, and it's
a big formation of nothingness. It's a big bunch of nothingness.
Formations, substitutions, and I think they find him to be a bit arrogant when
he is arrogant,
But you have to. I mean, who isn't at that point, right?
I love him. I love him.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
Give him any quote he wants,
Right.
He'll trash his team. You gotta love any coach who still trash his team. And soccer is the one that they'll still do that in.
He still gave one of the greatest lines on this podcast in this podcast history when he's talking about people second guessing his decisions. He said, "Hindsight United is still undefeated."
That is pretty damn good. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I've only talked to him a couple of times in a situation where he'd know it was me asking questions,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's hilarious. He used to come into the station and for a show once in a while, and it was on after us, and so I get to talk to him for a minute. And I'd always say, "They still mad at you?" Yeah, But yeah, it's that's probably the most fun part of soccer. Soccer is that internationally everywhere is that the way the international press covers soccer is great because they end up arguing with the coaches all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one place that's still left where,
still some of that tension.
Doesn't sit around and take their BS, Hey, before we go, I think you got a wild opening too, but how about those Iowa Hawkeyes?
Oh, man.
9-6 this time.
Unbelievable.
9-6. I said on Twitter, the way they're playing, were those 2 field goals drop kicks? If you didn't get to see Bronco Nagurski play in the 20, go watch the Hawkeyes. This is 1920s football. And the idiot's son sits there in the sidelines with an arrogant, dumb look on his face. What a mess.
Take a time machine back to Iowa.
It is. It's unbelievable. They got one of the best defenses in the country, and they can't beat anybody. It's hilarious. No. I was also having fun with the Nebraska fans that what a noble victory for the Huskers. They go to Rutgers and win 14-13. That's got to be one of the great victories in Nebraska history. They rally to beat Rutgers. Man,
the Big Ten West co-leading Huskers.
Yes, and the Gophers go down there and they got to look at Illinois and say, if we can figure out a way to get 14 points, we should win. Because they had to beat Iowa 9-6.
9-6.
Their quarterbacks hurt, right?
Yeah.
I think both they have 2 quarterbacks hurt. So, but we don't know what we have with the Gophers now after that game. So anyway,
I forgot to mention Gopher hockey. That was a big series against Mankato. They rolled them good Friday. The Mankato got them back on Saturday down there. That was about how you would expect that one to go. Wild opens on Thursday. It's that time of year, Patrick, like we've said before, where everything's
after the playoffs start.
Yeah, wake us up when the playoffs start, right?
Yeah, the Wilds when the playoffs start, because there's another sport where anything can happen once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. So, but they be good again, right? I don't know.
No, they're good.
Who's the backup goalie?
Gustafson, I think. We'll see about him.
Oh, is he guy? He was from Ottawa or something.
Yeah, he's the guy they got. I think they got. Yeah, after they got rid of when they got rid of Talbot. When they got rid of Talbot.
Talbot who got hurt, right? It's out for 6 weeks. I saw. So
wow.
That's my my hockey knowledge is reading the notes. So anyway, they get to see a full dose of Rossi and see if he's good as they think he is. So
it's been pretty good so far. Well, good stuff, Patrick. We'll have plenty to get to next week as well. We'll talk to you then.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.